As goat wives, tunajitanga goat wives. Goat wife atakangi kusikia kuna a mama outside.
Goat wife sasa ni
goat wife ni mimi nimelipiwa mahari, ni I'm the legal wife, people know me. Wanajua ndio huyo goat wife. Huyo ndio goat wife. Or that mzee who has just passed. Yes. But this mzee had a mpango somewhere. Not even maybe one or even two. As long as these mpangos had kids. And when nimeona unaonanga kwa TV, mtu amekufa, watu wanakuja mbio wanasema hata tulikuwa tunaishi na yeye, this is the child. In succession, this child, once it is proved this child belongs to this person, the deceased, that child has to be provided for in the estate of the deceased. So hakunanga kusema hapana, hafai kupewa, huyu hakuwa the legal wife. It is not about legality of a marriage or not. It's about there is a child who is innocent. Hakusema azaliwe na mpango ama si mpango. It is a child, he's a child for purposes of succession. And that child has to be provided for, irrespective. So hata goat wife, tukileta shida, kama kuna mtoto nje, lazima agawe mali ya mzee. So inakuanga, succession does not discriminate.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to Liz Wataka Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for sharing. We thank you for the comments that we normally get. We are humbled. Now today we have a guest. She's not new to this show. We had her sometimes back. The Wakili is back. The other time she was talking about something different. And today we are going an extra mile. And we know that it will be able to impact you. Now, karibu sana, introduce yourself.
Thank you sana. My name is Agnes, as we had previously spoken. And I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Yes. Karibu wakili.
Asante.
Karibu sana. Welcome to the show. Usinipeleke mbio. Naona Supreme huko mnatupeleka sana. Usinipatie hizo Kiingereza mingi.
Hatutaongea Kiingereza.
Karibu sana.
Now,
my people, today we are discussing about succession. I know it is a wide topic, but I requested wakili because I had several requests on succession. And now that I am not good in that field, I had to look for someone. Na wakili akaniambia hiyo hana wasiwasi. She's ready to share for free, and we really appreciate. Karibu sana wakili, and please take us through what is succession.
If someone dies and has left property, or even if someone dies and he owned something, at least in life you have to own something. So there is someone who succeeds whatever you had. And that is what in layman's terms I would define who takes over after you pass away. Yes, and it depends. Everyone of us will die at some point in life. So it depends with how you die. So you can die having written a will, or you can die having not written a will. Either way, one day all of us will die. And an advice that we advise most people is that at least have a will in place. You know, in our African culture, we usually say that if I write a will today, ninajiua mapema. So nasema hapana, let me not think about it. Think about death at this period. I will do it later. Maybe when I'm old, 70 or 80. But a time comes that you die and you have not left in will. That is what we say, you died intestate. Let me maybe give you a story, Elizabeth. And it's a story, probably it's a story about a man who died. It's a true story. A man dies having not written a will and has several properties. And this man has children. They are adults, some are adults, others are minors. A minor is a person who is less than 18 years, and there's a wife in place. And when this man died abruptly, it was an accident, and death just came one day. And when the wife was crying and mourning, people came in. You see the way you have aunties, the sisters to this person, the mother, the brothers to the man. They are ensuring they are taking everything in the house. The documentation. So you see when you're mourning Elizabeth, haujali about anything. Hata your sister-in-law akikuitisha kitu, enda uangalie kwa ile, you know that cabinet that is there, just go check whether it's there. Iyo wakaenda wakachukua kila kitu. They have the documents, they have the title deeds, they have probably the logbook. Na wamechukua kitu, and the following matanga hata ijaanza. So the following day matanga ikianza, wanaanza kusema wewe ndio uliua brother yetu, you're the one who knows what you did, ulimuroga ama you are mchawi. So within a week you have been mourning, you are even shocked first. You're mourning your husband, everything has been taken, you have no idea what to do. Now watu wamezika brother na wameinsist our brother will be buried in shags in our father's property. And because probably you loved this man so much, you were mourning, you had no time to think about other things. Now you have buried your husband, you have agreed with your in-laws, yes, let him rest there. And you have kids, you have been left with no income. The car went with the brother-in-law. So umebaki hapo na uko na job, this man was the one who was supporting you. So umebari your husband, you've come back home to an empty house. Wengine walichukua hadi viti, hadi stools, yani hawataki kukuona you have succeeded. And because that house was a rental, hiyo hawange kufukuza. Juu anajua rent hawatali, so no it's your rent at the end of the month. The landlord doesn't care whether you have money or not. The rent has to be paid. Or even you owned that house. Najua wanafukuzanga wengine wanaambia watoke waende. Go back to your mother. And that is why in such a scenario, when a widow starts mourning, hana direction, nianze wapi, nimalizie wapi. And for such, this is why we probably advise people, please write a will. Even if you don't have a will, for this widow, there is a way out. Go report that death. So you've reported the death. Umepata death certificate. Chukua hiyo death certificate, enda kwa chief akuandikie, I am the wife, na tulikuwa na watoto these people. Umepata death certificate, uko na barua ya chief, uko na, if you had copies of those documents, the title, the logbook, any property that man had, at least have copies of those things separately. Even if your in-laws come and meddle, at least you have them. Copies of those, whatever he owned, any form of bank account. Kama alikuwa na bank account, peleka kwa kakadi, ama sema kulikuwa na bank account mahali fulani, name the places that he had. Then, go to court. Go to court, the registrar, and file these documents. Everything that imechukuliwa kwako itarudishwa, because that is called intermeddling with a deceased property, and that is, at least the court can help you out in regarding all these things, because what your in-laws did was in the first place illegal. But once you know the process, that as long as I have a death certificate, as long as the chief has written a letter saying these are my kids, these are the kids of the deceased, I'm the wife, then you go to court. Then the process, the law takes its course. Within a year, you'll have everything back. You court it, order all those things to come back. And even these people might even be arrested for taking the things that don't belong to you. That is what we call intestate succession. When a person dies without leaving a will. But most people are giving up because in-laws are coming and doing all these things, and you have no direction of what to do. And that's why we advise, if you have no idea, go to a lawyer in any area. Najua some of easy ushago places, kuna kuanga na shida sana, especially na in-laws. Tafuta lawyer in that area, aende akuadvise. And that way, even if your husband died without leaving a will, you'll be able to be sorted. Yes.
Well, Wakili, I'm thinking, even as you explain, I'm trying to think of a person who has no idea of even how to go about this whole thing. Hajawahi sikia hata kuna kuanga na kitu inaitwa succession. totally no idea na amefanyiwa hivyo vile unasema. So what happens to such like person? Atapataje hiyo knowledge ndio asaidike?
Sasa unajua uzuri ya when you're interacting with people kwa matanga, I know there's always a person who will help you, a friend or even before, like now these talks, the way what you're doing is helping such people. Yes. Kama wataangalia waone, at least watapata general knowledge. But sasa, once your husband has passed on, or your wife, it can be either way, or your wife, tafuta wakili karibu, near your area. Just go and explain. My husband has died, alikuwa na 1, 2, 3. What is the way forward? Hivyo at least utapata knowledge ya what to do next. But sana najua kuna wengine wako in very remote areas, maybe hawaelewi. I don't know how we can make them understand that there is a way out. You do not have to give your in-laws or even the uncles everything that your husband worked for or your wife worked for. But I would advise people to at least seek understanding from kuna mtu tu kwa kijiji mahali anajuanga kitu, enda kwa chief. Huyo chief atakuexplainia, because chief unajua ni part of the government na ana understand. Chief atakuexplainia what you need to do. So kama una wakili karibu, enda waambie chief 1, 2, 3 hii ndio imehappen. Chief atakuexplainia hivi na hivi ndio unafaa ufanye. You can even go to court yourself. Once the chief has explained to you, then uende kwa koti. Courts, our Kenyan courts are very willing to help. Uende kwa registrar kwa koti, any court near you. Huyo registrar atakuexplainia zile vitu zote utaleta na how to file, inaitangwa petition, how to do that petition. They usually explain for those who cannot afford a wakili to do that for them. Yes.
Oh, interesting. So that is intestate.
That's intestate, yeah. That's intestate. Yes.
Wow. Thank you. My viewers, I hope we are following. Hizi vitu ni muhimu, by the way. Ile time inakupata ndio una realize by the way it was important. So to avoid that, ni vizuri kujipanga vile wakili anasema. Yes. Thank you. So tell us, wakili, what happens when for example a spouse dies and maybe they were married but it was not legal? I mean, maybe they do not have a certificate.
They do not have a marriage certificate.
A marriage certificate, yes. But they are family and they've been staying together. Even they have children. And one of them dies maybe and he or she had wealth. How now will this wealth be distributed? Distributed maybe rightfully?
You see, the beauty with succession is very different from the Marriage Act itself. If someone dies and the wife and the kids remain, but there's no marriage certificate in place, as I had explained earlier, you reported this death. There's a death certificate. You go to the chief, and the court looks at the letter of the chief. The letter of the chief says that this was the wife, these were the children. So you do not attach a marriage certificate in an intestate succession proceeding. And maybe if issues come later, you need to say that you are the wife. But you see now the chief, we believe that as long as the chief has written this letter, this chief knew the family of this deceased person. And I don't know why it's not only men who die, even women die. So either way, as long as the chief has stated that this was the wife and they had these children. But there is a way you can also, once this goes to court, there are people who come and say, no, this was not the wife. So the burden of proof now becomes, it's proving these are the kids, these are not the kids. Now the battle goes to court. And finally the court will make a decision. But in succession, as long as this person, hata venye watu wanaendanga wanapata mpango wa kando nje na kona mtoto wake, in succession you have to provide for these kids. The wealth of this man will have to take care of this child either way.
Wait,
as long as, yes.
Please repeat, just for the sake of our viewers. ni muhimu watu wajue wasifinyiliwe huko nje.
Najua for us goat wives tunajitanga goat wives. Goat wife atakangi kusikia kuna a mama outside.
Goat wife sasa ni
goat wife ni mimi nimelipiwa mahari, I'm the legal wife, people know me. Wanajua ndio hiyo goat wife. Hiyo ndio goat wife. Or that mzee who has just passed.
Yes.
But this mzee had a mpango somewhere. Not even maybe one or even two. As long as these mpangos had kids. And when unaonanga kwa TV, mtu amekufa, watu wanakuja mbio wanasema hata tulikuwa tunaishi na yeye, this is the child. In succession, this child, once it is proved this child belongs to this person, the deceased, that child has to be provided for in the estate of the deceased. So hakunanga kusema hapana, hafai kupewa, huyu hakuwa the legal wife. It is not about legality of a marriage or not. It's about there is a child who is innocent. Hakusema azaliwe na mpango ama si mpango. It is a child, he's a child for purposes of succession. And that child has to be provided for, irrespective. So hata goat wife, tukileta shida, kama kuna mtoto nje, lazima agawe mali ya mzee. So inakuanga, succession does not discriminate. Whether you are the legal child or no, wanaitangwa I wouldn't say that word. Yes, illegitimate children. And some people call them under other bad names. But as long as there's a child outside, they have to be provided for by this person, the estate of the deceased.
So whether the other lady was married to this guy or not,
yes,
but the child, but they'll have to prove that the child
no, the child was, you see, evidence inakujanga, birth certificate imeandikwa nani?
Hapana, sinaweza tu andika, but mimi najua babake ni nani.
No, birth certificate has the name of the deceased person. People insist, others insist on DNA. The others will go to an extent of seeking for a DNA.
Now, what of a lady maybe? You see, sometimes maybe this guy ndio alikuwa na familia yake, then akakuja, ukakuwa mpango, ukapata ball. Then hapo kwa hiyo jani ya ball maybe mkakosana. Mkakosana hata mkaachana, hamtaki kuangaliana. So by the time this lady was giving birth, mmekosana ile yenye hata hizitaka mtoi wake aitwe jina yako, unaona? So na maasira zake akaweka tu majina zingine peke yake hapo. Then after mtoi amekuwa tena relationship ikarudi. Juu nasikianga love sijui kama ni nini. Relationship ikarudi. Now imefika ni part ya wealth. Sasa the husband ameenda. Now jina haiko kwa birth certificate.
Yes.
But tulirudiana. The relationship is on. What happens?
DNA yezi danganya Liz.
O tunaenda sasa step ya DNA.
You know that now hata kama ukuweka jina yake, your burden of proof becomes higher, but DNA does not lie. It will prove that this child belongs to the deceased. So you still have to provide for this the child that was outside of your marriage.
Okay. It sounds painful, but I think it is the it is the law.
Yes, it is the law. And that's why sometimes goat wives are we advise goat wives, najua tunaletanga shida sana, but ikikuja ni mtoto, the law does not discriminate. This is an innocent child. Si ameharibu your marital, but this is an innocent child. They need to be provided for. But also there is advice that we give. There are people who are wiser, and you have children outside. You write a will. You use a lawyer and write a will, or you can, a will is just a list of, this is what I own, this is how I want it distributed. As long as you've provided for all your children, even those ones that are outside. Unajua ukikufa, at least huyu lawyer atakuja atoke na hii will, aseme akona mtoto huyu na huyu, and this is how I wish this distribution to take place. Provide for all your kids. At least bibi atakuja kujua kuna watoto nje, maybe kuna, but haitakuwa shock because ulikuwa ushawa recognize kwa will, these are my children and they are provided for under the will. The issue comes when, yes, you've written a will, but you've not provided for all your children. That will invalidate this will, because you cannot leave all of them or your children. So hata kama unapenda mtoto mmoja kuliko mwingine, hautaacha huyu mwingine kwa will. Hata kama utawapatia the same distribution, at least umpatie mwachie kitu kuonyesha you recognize this as your child, if you do not want your will to be invalidated. Yes.
I have a question, Wakili.
Yes.
And this one I'm asking for someone out there. Do you think that it is also good manners to be open and tell your partner that you have kids out there?
Very funny question. But you know your partner. Unajua ukimwambia, unajua kuna wengine watasema and then wauliwe kwa nyumba hiyo siku. Kuna wengine watasema the wife gets used to it na ikue. So it depends, ni wewe, you know your partner. If you share these details, atabehave aje. What do you want? But I would advise you to write a will. Just declare all those. Sema hapo, I don't know, it depends with how you know your partner. You just know your partner. I know my partner, the way atabehave. Na maybe sitaki aende, so maybe ndaficha. Ama kuna wengine wanasemanga ndio bibi yake aende. But either way hata aende asiende, as long as they are, wanaitangwa issues under the issues are these children, as long as they are there, you have to provide for them. Either your partner agrees or not, they have to be provided for.
Okay, my issue here is not even the provision, is that knowledge. Because I'm looking at a scenario whereby tumekaa miaka mingi, more than pengine 20 years.
Yes.
Mimi nakujua wewe, mimi na watoto wetu. Then God forbid una pass, alafu inakuja kujulikana mpaka ulikuwa umeacha hata will. Surely all these years huwezi hata niguzia like your wife ili happen na ikakuwa hivi and this is how things are right now. So at least niko tunaiona hata kama utaniambia in details, but I see it, naona kama ni good manners uniambie, unitajie tu.
But unajua wewe ni wewe Liz, alafu mimi Agnes ni mimi. Mimi nikaenda wewe miaka 20, si ndio? And then 20 years I think tumefanya everything that we can do. And then ukuje na hiyo shock. How maybe my emotions are different. How am I supposed to absorb that? But I can mention, by the way, na kuanga na kuna huyu lawyer na huyu lawyer, in case of anything akona wili yangu. So in case I die one day, you know where to look for this lawyer. Na hii ndio namba ya, na hii ndio you have as a form of courtesy ama for the relationship you've had with this person for all those years. Sema kuna will na huyu ndio anakuanga lawyer wetu wa family. And you know the beauty with lawyers is confidentiality. Nitaenda niandike will, ni disclose huyu lawyer, I disclose everything. Ile maybe siwezi pata confidence ku disclose ya my wife or my husband. I just disclose everything and naiandika in writing. And once and a will can be amended every other time. Maybe umeongezea property nyingine, unaenda unamwambia kwa ile tuongezee hii property, kwa ile tuongezee hii property, ongezea huyu mtoto nampatia hii, ongezea huyu nimempatia hii. So at least lawyer wako, hata kama utampata wife, umekuja umemwambia wife, hii ndio namba ule lawyer, this is our family lawyer. So in case of anything, you just go to this lawyer, akona will yetu. Wife, hata kama unajua kuna some of us are very curious. Hata kama hajakufa, you want to go to this lawyer. Ajue ameandika nini kwa hiyo ngapi. Amenipatia nini? Amepatia watoto wangu ngapi? First born, second born. Hata kama alinini, atataka kujua. But lawyer, the confidentiality clause, please, this is between me and your client. You do not need to disclose this to anyone else unless upon my demise peke yake. Hiyo sasa ndio nda disclose. So as long as you disclose, there is a family lawyer who has by will in case anything happens. This lawyer cannot disclose as long as you're living. So when you're dead, that is when the lawyer will bring up the will. So it's up to you to decide whether you can disclose the graphic details to your partner or you let your lawyer do that upon your demise, whether you have children outside or you have other wives. You know, in this era of polygamy, you can, the customary law allows you to marry many wives. So probably you have many other wives because the first wife was under a polygamous relationship, and you have other wives probably that your wife does not know. So at least you let this lawyer know kuna bibi watatu wako na watoto 1, 2, 3, so they will be provided for under your estate.
Yes. Okay. Well explained. My viewers, tuko pamoja. Tunaendelea vizuri. I have another question.
Yes.
Wakili. There is now this family whereby one of the spouse dies. The wealth is in the name of maybe the children, but the children are still young, they are minors. Then, so of course they have no idea about the wealth. Now, what happens to them when it comes to maybe they turn to that age, and maybe the remaining spouse has already remarried, but there is a will for the kids. Does it wait wakikuwa wakubwa wanaambiwa so yako ni hii na hii na hii, or the remaining spouse anaweza endelea nayo kushughulika ama okay?
That, Elizabeth, that would depend. Ako na will na hii will iko na lawyer. If ni lawyer alimsaidia to draft his will, there is something that lazima advise you about a trust, to establish a trust for purposes of these children, and maybe they will access this trust when they are probably of a majority age, that is over 18. So there are some people who develop a specific trust for their children, and that will be managed. Na anapatiana wale watu wata manage that trust. So that one, you see, even when you go to court, there is a legal system already in place for this property to be managed. But whatever was not in that trust will be, and these children are minor, the surviving spouse will hold interest for purposes of these kids if it was a immovable property. But if it's movable and the accounts that bank accounts that this person had, the surviving spouse atapewa, ata hold in, atachukua kama to take care of these kids, kama ni school fees, we'll use this to take care of these children. When this person remarries, they have no right to use the life interest, like the houses probably that were being paid, and they are not under this trust. They cannot sell it or dispose of it, because they will wait until these kids are of a majority age, then they are transferred to them. But as if you want to provide for your children and their minors, there is always a trust you can, and you give people, there are people who manage that trust. There is a case ya huyu one of this, there's one kumekuwa nazo, you see these wealthy people that have died recently in Kenya, and kuna wenye wamekuwa wana hold trust. There was a battle between the trustees of the estate of this alikuwa a very rich person, I will not mention the name, and the trustees wa hiyo estate walikata kupatiana. There were issues with the dependents of this person, both the adults and the grandchildren. Kumekuwa na issues, even some of them died wakingoja pesa ya the grandfather, or because they were sick, or they were not being provided for. So hata hizi trusts za zingine zinakuanga na shida depending on the people you've given to manage the trust. If you have a vast estate, you do not you give to a trust to manage if your estate is vast. Na Kenyan billionaires mostly have this. Kuna trust for their grandkids, for their children, and there is a way that is managed by different people.
Okay, so for us you can advise sisi wa kawaida tunaweza tupeleka kwa lawyer. Iko tu bado sawa, si ndio?
Hata unaweza peleka, yes, the best thing is hata ukipeleka kwa lawyer, please ensure that, because hata ukiandika will, it can be invalidated. Mtu akikuja aseme hapana, hii will, huyu Agnes akimeki will, she was not of a sound mind, she was mentally unstable. And if this person who is disputing the will can prove that I was not mentally stable at that moment, I cannot be able to, that will is invalidated. Or maybe I made that will when I was of a minor age. Unajua siku hizi na hizi stories za YouTube channel, mtu wa 12 years anakuwa mdosi, anakuwa na so much money, but you see this is a minor. So hata akiandika will haita make sense. That is a minor, so haitakuwa. So hata ukiandika will, be sure to follow the due process. Juu will hata ukiandika kuna due process. Were there witnesses? Were you coerced to write this will? Can you prove that you are coerced? Kuna wengine wanafanyanga signature. Unajua signature saa zingine mtu atasema atakuja kudispute will under hii signature ilisainiwa under duress. That is this person. Jutona kuna venye maybe so kuna mtu atasema this naturally in your signature yake, but ukiangalia signature iko kwa will, it is like it was kitu tu kidogo inaweza invalidate a will. So the best thing is when you visit a lawyer, at least a lawyer will be able to advise on this. Yes.
Good. Tunaendelea poa. My viewers, let us continue learning. This is free education. Agnes is not charging. Na tunashukuru. Again, today I have several. Allow me just to continue and ask these questions. I'm looking at a scenario whereby, okay, it is in two ways. It is a formal marriage. It is a formal marriage. Yes, we have a certificate. And one of us goes to be with the Lord. And maybe it's the husband or the wife, but he or she had wealth. But now the family comes. The family of the deceased comes. Hizi vitu ni vitu tunaonanga hata kwa TV, ni story tunasikia, ni vitu tumeona, tumewitness maybe in families. Familia wanakuja na kweli they want to take all, yani to take everything. Certificate wanakwambia hiyo ni paper. That is just a paper. So kuna hiyo ya uko na certificate but the family comes for the entire wealth. There is this other scenario, hamuna certificate but kweli inajulikana hata kwa familia huyu ndo wife wa fulani, hawa ndo watoto wao na wamekaa 15 years in marriage, but now when you die familia inakuja siku hiyo ndo wanakuambianga sasa unajua si hata hatukujui. What shows that you are the wife?
Wanakujangada na bibi ushago. Anasema huyu ndio ule bibi tunajua. Anakujanga na bibi ushago anasema this is the wife we recognize. And you know the beauty with the law is it doesn't this, I will not call them shenanigans. It doesn't recognize that because once a person dies, hata kama alikuwa na kikombe, you shall not intermeddle with that. Inaitangwa intermeddling. It becomes an illegality to take something that belongs to the deceased if there was no will in place and you had not been given that whatever you're taking, you have no authority. It doesn't matter whether you're the mother or the brother or the sister, you cannot intermeddle with that kombe irrespective. So hata akikuja achukue, kuna wengine wanaendanga wanafagia nyumba kila kitu. Hata bibi anafukuzwa anaambiwa rudi kwao. Hata anasema watoto hata si wa my brother. Toka uende. And this wife or the surviving spouse has authority to go and report. Hizo vitu washikwe kwanza because you're intermeddling with an estate of a deceased person and the court is now the only legal the only legal process is to go to court and for the distribution of whatever was left to whoever was depending on this estate. And these days there are sometimes in intestate succession or even testate, you are supporting a child that is not yours. Maybe alikuwa nakaa kwako, unamlipia fees, na in-laws wanajua huyu mtoto si. But if you can go to court and prove this is a dependent, alikuwa analipiwa fees, alikuwa anafanyiwa 1 2 3, do you know they will continue depending on the state of that deceased person. Hata kama ni my mother, let's say I'm supporting my mother. Every month natumianga my mom 50k and then nalipa rent yake, nalipa bills za stima, nalipa 1 2 3. My mom can claim, can dispute, can say I was a dependent of this person because there's no way I was taking care of myself. So after the wife and the spouses, there are other dependents that will come and claim dependency. Yes, there is priority, but if I can prove that my whole life this is the person who was supporting me, kuna watu wanakujanga like I am living with my brothers and my sisters and I'm the one who is paying college fees, nalipa sijui nini. They were living in my house and they were depending on my income. They can come and claim dependency. Was I dependent? Can you prove that this is the person who you are depending on? Purely, you are a dependent. And some of these things are the ones that come in, and you can now start claiming dependence. Sometimes it's not only the people that your wife and your children, which are a must, they must be provided for. There are other people that can come in and claim that they were depending on this estate. And do you know, the court will look at the evidence and they must be awarded a part of the estate to continue depending on whatever was left. Yes.
My viewers, mi nimeshika hapo kwa do not
Intermeddle.
Do not intermeddle with a deceased's wealth. Ha, oga. Tabi nikienda nini huko inaitwaje? Supreme. Niko mbele. You should not intermeddle with a deceased's wealth. Niko sawa?
Naitangwa sasa ukitaka kusound money unasema estate.
Estate, not wealth.
You do not you do not intermeddle with the estate.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Agnes. Then another question. You have a formal marriage, but maybe the husband has another wife, and it is known he has another wife. But, okay, what happens now to the wealth? Because you are the wife, wewe ndio uko na marriage certificate, but kuna wife mwingine huko. It's either akona watoi ama hana.
If we would go back to types of marriages, it depends with what type of marriage are we talking about. If it's polygamous, the other wife is recognized. But if it's civil and probably a church wedding, a Christian wedding, that one is purely monogamous. It doesn't matter, but succession, as long as there was a child, even in the other purported marriage, even if you have a first wife and a civil and a monogamous kind of marriage, as long as the other spouse or the other mpango, we call them probably mpango if it was under monogamous system. As long as there is a child, it doesn't matter. This child has to be provided for. And if this child is a minor, who takes care of the estate for the minor up to the time the minor is of a majority age? Yes. But now if there was a mpango, yes, this was under monogamous marriage, the burden of proof is upon her. She was just a mpango. But you know the way they come is that I was depending on this person as who. Now that's a case that you have to fight. That's a battle you have to fight in court. You were living with this person, you had no child, you're not legally married, you can't prove that you are legally married to this person. What proof do you have that you are depending on this man or on this woman, whoever dies first? Unajua siku hizi hadi wanawake wanakuwa. Kuna wamamas, nasikia wanaitangwa wamamas. So they have several to benten.
Wanaitwa benten.
Wanaitwa benten. Allah. Wakona to benten. Mahali. Maybe our benten wakuja wa claim you are depending on this mama. So,
okay.
Itakuwa
kuna hizo?
Kuna nasema you see we prioritize on the man, that is the man died na mipango wanatokea. Unajua even the siku hizi venye society imekuja, the scale is turning, and whatever you can find a man with so many mpangos, but ladies are equally doing the same.
That is in order, wakili. Tumeelewa. You've enlightened us. By the way, this education is not easily found. Alafu ni vitu si assume unless shida ikupate ndio sasa you see the importance. So even as we wrap up, now that from your explanation I've discovered that succession inaweza kutoa kwa point if you're not you're not keen. So advisors, what are we supposed to do maybe in life? Najua succession is wide. Okay, maybe anyone. Of course, at some point, kila mtu uko na something mahali, si ndio? Not really ati kwa sababu tu uko married. Unaweza kuwa maybe you're not even married,
Yes.
but you have wealth.
You have, yes.
So advise us to avoid these scenarios, kutokea kwa TV tumekimbizana na panga kwa sababu ya mali hata si yetu. But tunakimbizana ama vitu kaa hizo. What do we do? Is there a way we can avoid this?
Yes, there's a way you can avoid it, but I would advise Liz, if you can, and I know you're able, as long as you have something, start writing your will, amend it as you go along. As you continue gaining more property, continue amending it and distributing it. You know, I had a firstborn, so maybe I wrote a will and I gave to my daughter. Then there's something I left for then I got a son. I have to write a will to ensure that he's provided for. So as you continue accumulating more wealth, you can start amending, continue amending your will to be able to involve all your dependents. And especially, even if you have a person outside there who has your child, provide for this child. Ensure that this child is provided for purposes, because you can write a will and you die peacefully knowing that I have left a will, and then someone outside there comes and invalidates that will completely. And I know it's very unfortunate because some men or women probably, but we've had cases of more men, watakufa, kuna mtu alizaa naye kitambo but hata akumbuki, ama this lady never said ulizaa na mimi, but akisikia tu amekufa. Unajua kuna watu kustalk kwa social media, wanakustalk, and then juu ma exes wanakustalk, maybe muliachana venye ulisema akiwa na ball and akapata mtoi na aliweka your name in that birth certificate, and then hamuko iongea after that, but aone because amekuwa na kustalk kuangalia progress ya life. Unajua kucompare, amefika hapa na mimi niko hapa, kuna kama, and then you suddenly die, this person appears. Sometimes it's good to be just an honest living is good, and maybe you'll open up to your wife or even your lawyer, but as long as you know you have kids outside marriage or even in your marriage, provide for all of them. Hata kama kuna mtoto unachukia na mnaishi naye kwa nyumba, hata kama ni wako, unajua watu wanakuanga na favorite, ensure you provide for all your kids. It may not be equally, distribution does not have to be equal. If you are writing a will, unaweza achia my daughter nitamwachia 10%, my son nitamwachia 80%. As long as you provided for them in this will, and it is proved to be a valid will, at least you'll have provided for them. That is the safest way. But if the person dies intestate, my advice would be, even as you mourn, please chukua kila kitu yako, iweke mahali pamoja, ufiche, ungoje, mutaangalia, but you do not allow your in-laws to come and dictate what happens in your house, because the law protects you as the wife, as the children. It doesn't matter. Probably some are left orphans, but you see the person, you didn't have a father or but you had a mother who had property, and you are adults. Even as you mourn, ensure that everything that your mother had or your father had, because now you'll be left as orphans, is kept safely. And make sure you visit a lawyer, or the chief can explain to you if you don't understand some of these things. But usitikia aunti zako na aunti yako, maanko zako wakuje intermeddle na the properties of, because the law is behind you, the law supports you on this. So whether you're an orphan, the first thing that someone advised me, as long as that person has left, first be sober. The first thing is to be sober. You already know your aunties or your in-laws the way they are. Ensure everything is in place. Make sure they do not have access to it. I have someone who lost a husband, and once they lost the husband, the friends came in and told this person, can you give us all your titles, everything that is in the house? You have that person that you trust the most. Give it to us. Acha tuende tukuweke. Do you know, hiyo jioni, the brothers of that husband were there, na sisters, na the in-laws, wakiuliza, by the way, ile nani alikuwa na Ama hata kama unamwona hapo unalia, watu wako bedroom yako wakitafuta vitu, but you see the friends had gone first and rescued this lady. So at least kila kitu ilibaki naye, hamtashinda na hii fight. Hata unajua kuna ile fight unaweza avoid, hata kama unajua hata mkifight utashinda, but there are some things you can avoid. Is there a person you can trust with these things? Mpatie ajifichie kando kwanza, and this is a person, unajua mtu nje hata kugeuka kuja sema sijui hizi ilikuwa zangu ama or even your sister. Please, if your sisters, nitakwambia please niwekee hizi vitu once nimekuja see if I lose my husband you'll be the first there to comfort me. Nitakupatia vitu ndio uniwekee. Hautakuja kuclaim baadaye my husband was your husband because we are blood. Si ndio? So some of these things to avoid, ensure that ameenda, harudi, soberness the first few hours. Unajua kuna ile mtu anakasema hajakufa. Kana hiyo mentality ya wana ugathe kila kitu irushe, then go ahead and moon. Then probably at least hamtakuwa na hizi vitamob na in-laws, yes. If that is intestate. But if your a husband or wife had told you there's a will, there's a family lawyer, you just contact them and tell them the person passed on, this is the death certificate, what is the way, or they will be able to go through with you all forward.
Yes. What if maybe the person died? For example, now the parents, now the children left behind, maybe with one parent, but the parent that passed on had wealth, but no will.
If the surviving spouse is the one who takes charge, you report the death and you get the death certificate, is the normal intestate succession. You get that letter from the chief, you get the birth certificate, whatever he owned, the copies of it, and then you file for administration purposes. Yes, now you proceed with the court.
So your administration una file wapi kwa chief?
Administration chief atakuandikia tu barua yenye itaenda kotini. Na plus the certificate plus properties zote huyu mtu alikuwa na own. You have copies of that. Sasa hizo ndio zinapelekwa kotini. You start the succession journey ya administration. It takes time. It does not take, it's not a one-day affair or a 2 months affair. It can take up to 6 months to a year. Yes, to a year. Mostly the best will take a year. I know there are some that have taken so long, 20 years, you'll still hear there's a succession case, but you nakujanga juu ya fights between family members. Na huyu anajaribu kuprove alikuwa dependent, huyu anasema hakuwa dependent. Hizo vita ndio zinafanyanga a 20-year case hata wenye walikuwa wanafaitia first hata wanakufa, wanaacha sasa watoto wao wakipigania. So the best would be to write a will and ensure at least at the part of distribution if it's intestate, sit down as a family, agree. Tutakugaia 1, 2, 3. Agree. Once you agree, a year is enough for you to get all those properties. Yes.
Wow. Wakili, we have really based on side ya Hazia Kipas.
Yes,
I want us to come to this other side now. When the wife dies, for example, is it, have you had maybe issues or have you heard of these scenarios just the same as when the husband dies, that the wife passed on, maybe she left a will or she did not leave a will, but now the family, her family comes for her wealth, and she had maybe she had a will and she had distributed maybe the wealth to her husband and the children. Are there scenarios like those?
I know probably there are, but they are very rare, especially in African society, because people believe that wealth belongs to the man.
Mubaba ndio ako na wealth.
Alafu sisi as or the wives, hata saa zingine ukibuy property unaandika jina ya the husband. Hiyo ndio imekuwa culture ya Africa, the African society. So imekuwa hata Agnes akichukua kitu anachukua na jina ya the husband. So inakuwa very difficult to prove that this was hers because it's already in the name of the husband. And maybe there are cases like those. I told you the law applies the same. It doesn't discriminate. That juu alikuwa bibi ndio alikuwa anaona kila kitu, the family atakuja kuclaim. No, it doesn't work that way. The surviving spouse takes over, and the kids, if they are adult children, they also they will now do this with the father or the surviving spouse.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, so what I'm getting from you, the most important thing to do maybe is just to plan yourself, do a will, and update as time goes by. If you add an asset or anything, you
update it, yes. And ensure that you are providing for everyone, because you can write a will and then it's invalidated because you are not in the capacity to do so. You didn't have capacity, you didn't provide for everyone, someone else brought some the other issues outside. Yes, a will is good, it's the first step, but ensure that everyone that was depending on you is provided for in that will.
Wow. Thank you, Agnes. Even as we wrap up, I am relating with a story that I heard somewhere one day over over a family that stayed together for a very long period as husband and wife, and they were paying rent. And of course the husband is the one who pays rent. Tumezoea hivyo. So he pays rent faithfully, but after several years down the line, the husband discovers that the apartment that they are staying in is for the wife. Yes.
So
alikuwa analipa wife rent. Alikuwa analipa, by the way, alikuwa anatoa na inarudi tu hapo kwa hiyo hao.
Inarudi kwa hiyo mfuko.
But walinyamaza hivyo. Sasa sijui ilifika what point ndio Hazia ka discover that the asset ni ya wife. Yes, I think that is bad manners.
But you see, venye tu nikwambia Liz, you know your person, there's ugena ongea huyo bibi atakupatia reasons kwa nini alifanya hivyo. Okay. Na ukienda uonge na huyu bwana utasikia machungu zenye yako nazo because the wife treated him that way. But you see now they are still surviving. So it's for them to decide, do we divorce, do we stay together, or the way forward, how do we behave?
Yes. That was just by the way. Thank you, Agnes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you even for hosting us. We really appreciate. And thank you for the knowledge. You know, this knowledge, ulilipia. We know, and it was not few coins, but you've decided to educate us. And succession is a very wide topic, which is very important.
Yes,
but we do not know that it is important unless an issue comes up.
Yes.
But we really appreciate that you agreed to discuss this with us. The other time you really educated us on marriages and types of marriages, and I can tell you the feedback was wow. You educated so many people. My followers really appreciated, and up to date they still ask questions. I know you normally see they ask, and I appreciate, because even today you still answer them. Now thank you so much, because I know we are going to have so many questions on succession, because this is something that is affecting most of us out there. Wealth matters, najua inaleta issues sana kwa mafamilia, but I know you will be able to handle us the way we come.
Yes, that's true.
So thank you so much. So is there anything that maybe you'd wish to tell our viewers as we wrap up?
As we wrap up, I would just advise our viewers to be vigilant. See, vigilance, whether you're married or not, and you have dependents and you have kids, just just write down your wishes. I would wish my cup to go to this person. I would like to gift this person. You see, by the way, there's something we forgot to mention. In a will, you can even mention that I want to gift someone that is not in the family. I'm gifting this person this car because maybe one time there's a way I helped this person, and they say the only way I can appreciate is I can gift them. I've heard of stories, maybe outside, that someone took care, a nanny came and took care of an old man, and this man left everything to this person. Yes, and a part of the estate was gifted to this person. So you see, whether the beauty of a will is that is provided for the people you would wish that are not even your dependent can get something from your estate.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, it's just speaking your heart, how you want it to be done. Well, thank you so much, Wakili. And my viewers, asante sana. Tuendelee share for more people to subscribe. Share your comments, anything, criticize, we are there. Mnatusaidia, you help us grow. Thank you so much, and until next time, God bless you.
God bless you.